So today's a little bit of a different one. I'm going to be doing some work on Sarge that I've been wanting to do for a while. I wanted to do this before we left. I just didn't get a chance and just didn't have the money for the parts at the time. So we were actually lucky enough to be approached by Tough Toys. That's an Australian company over from the East Coast, and they make awesome parts, especially for lots of different cars, but particularly for the Jeeps. So what we're doing today is we're installing this, which is a steering box tension. So basically it's a bracket to keep the steering box nice and tight, and also track bar as well. And also as well, rear bump stops extenders. So even though Sarge's only just got a 2-inch lift, it's not extreme. Having bump stop, having bump stop extenders, it's just good, particularly the fact that we tow and everything like that as well. It stops the chance of any overextension of shocks and stuff like that. So let's get into it, eh? Okay, so I've just had a quick look at the instructions. I've got all the tools I need out. Basically, what they are is, well, this is the rear bump stops. Holy dooly, they're beefy. So this is for the rear bump stops. So basically, all it literally does is just an extended platform. That's all they are. Super simple. They're literally 2 bolts or 4 bolts total, and it's all done. Now, the front brace is a little bit more complicated, and as it should be. So those are for the extensions. So what we've got here is, this is basically goes around the sector shaft, basically. So it goes on there, and just once it's in the bracket, it stops it from moving around. So that's a nice little bearing there. This is the nut which replaces the existing nut on the sector shaft. So basically, the sector shaft is just basically a nut like that. So that basically goes up like that, and then this will slip on like that, and it is quite firm. And once we've got some, we'll put some anti-seize on it as well. That's actually very firm. So basically, anti-seize on there, and basically that will sit effectively in there like that, and it just stops any movement at all. Obviously, all new hardware, all new bolts and hardware, and then the main bracket itself. And this is all done in Australia, which is really cool. So Australian made, as you can see, very, very tough bracket. So the way it works is basically that goes into the chassis bolts through there. So that's where the existing bolts are for the steering box. So basically it stops it. There's a lot of elongation of this hole with steering boxes over a period of time. So that alone, you can see how beefy that is. And then this here sits on the end of this. Now it does go a certain way. I'll just have to quickly double read the instructions. I think it's that way from memory, but anyway, I'll double check that. And so that's what it does. It sits in there. The track bar goes down here, so through this section here. So this horse also is a lot tighter. The other thing that's one of the big problems with the track bars is the bolts that goes through the track bars. If you look at the genuine Jeeps, and I'll show you when I get them out, they're thread all the way through. So this thread that's here actually wears the actual hole. So you actually end up with it elongating that hole quite badly, and you get a lot of movement in the track bar. A lot of people have like death wobbles and stuff like that they talk about with these live axles. That's one of the reasons that causes it. Not the only reason, but one of the reasons. Like I said, this is not going to be a full instruction video. This is just, I'm getting it done. I thought I'd just have a chat to you guys while I'm doing it. So the biggest thing initially, and the biggest hurdle we're going to come across, is the getting the bolt off the sector shaft. So I've got a pry bar, and you need a big ass socket, so a big 42. So I'm going to see if I can get that off with a rattle gun, hopefully. Let's hope it comes off with a rattle gun, and we'll go from there. All right, let's get into it. All right, let's give this a crack, eh? It's a bit hard to get in there with all of this. Actually, that hole elongates a lot. That's actually not too bad on ours, which is good for 100,000 Ks. Pretty happy with that, actually. So now that that's down out of the way, hopefully we can get the rattle gun in there. Hopefully. Otherwise, I don't know what we're going to do. It's moving, that's positive.
A few moments later.
That is tight. Might chuck some more WD-40 in that. Now that I can get it into the top of the bolt. And that's it for a bit. Okay, it's been sitting for a bit. Let's see how that goes. Hopefully we'll get a bit more movement this time. This bolt, this is a pain, this track bar. I don't want to really take off both ends if I can get away with it. Just put the impact driver on charge. It's just even though it's fully charged, it's really taken a hiding to get that pitman arm off anyway. Hey, I just want to talk to you guys. Have any of you got Recons out there, had issues with leaking in this boot? So this is the front boot. Just been getting leaking in here. It's dry at the moment because I've been cleaning it out, but yeah, particularly when we're driving, or if it's stationary overnight for an extended period of time, then definitely getting a lot of water in there. So yeah, just curious if anyone's getting that. Okay, so while we wait for that to charge up, I'm just going to do the rears, because they should be pretty easy, 2 bolts. So let's chuck those on there. So these just basically go up onto this platform here. So they sit basically like that. Just it allows your bump stops to work more effectively, stopping things like your shocks bottoming out and stuff like that. So let's get this cleaned up and bolted in. The other side you're going to do by braille because I can't see it. Always start by hand because you just never know. It has got torque settings, so I'll grab the torque wrench in a second and do that up. Okay, one side done. Simple as that, hey? How easy is that? Very cool. Whew. Wow. Wowee. Just really hoping that's not cross-thread. That's horrible. Yeah, thread's okay, but Jesus, that was ridiculous. Can't believe how tight that was all the way to the bottom. Just check the thread all the way through. Yep, that's all good. So now what we'll do is we'll put some Loctite on this. All right, ugga dugga up. Now what we're going to do is we're going to torque that up. Yeah, that's pretty tight. Okay, that is torqued. Now it's going to apply a little bit of anti-seize on here. Okay. I love anti-seize. Now, this has to go facing the back apparently. So, slide that on like that. It's going to be tight because it will support itself. Whew, that's very low tolerance. Wow, that is super tight tolerance. That's awesome. These ones are built. this car, when we bought this, we were told it was an X demo, had like about 5,000-6,000 Ks on it. And one of the questions I specifically asked was whether it had the steel steering box recall done. And guess what? It's the first time I've actually really specifically looked for it. We haven't. So we've got an alloy box in this, which is a bit frustrating. So the only difference with that is it means that some of the bolts are a bit different length. So the bolts on the front particularly are significantly longer than what come with it. So I've just had to faff around with that. It actually fits. There's plenty of thread on there. There's no issue with that. But yeah, it's just a bit of a faff, and I was just getting a bit annoyed. You don't need to see that. Anyway, it's literally just these 4 bolts. Now these 4 bolts in here, they're just done up loosely. They're not done up. They're not done up tight at all. And now basically what we've got to do. So what I did is I actually used a screwdriver and actually a drill bit just to run through the holes that's kept the steering box from falling down. And basically now what I'm going to do is you've got to put these 10mm bolts in here. So they basically locate the bracket to that. So there's going to be a bit of faffing around, I think, of that. Looks like that one there is not quite as high as it needs to be. So, and then this side as well. So this side's got to go in there as well. I might actually have to back, I might be having them a bit too tight. Actually, I might have to back those off on the bracket. I might have, even though I've only done them up loosely, I might have done them a bit too tight. So just loosen that off.
2 hours later.
Okay, so I've got a confession. It's probably, I don't know, 2.5 hours since I last was on camera. I've been having a battle. So this, as you can see, I'm covered in grease. It's just been a little bit fiddly. The brackets are great. It's just these 10mm you've got to get in. You've got such a fine amount to do it. I reckon on a hoist it'd be so much easier, but trying to do it on the ground, it's real pain in the bum. If you can afford to, definitely get someone to do it for you. Or if you've got a mate with a hoist, even better. They're the best mates in the world. So I'm just nipping it up every now, so I'll run you through what I'm doing. As you can see, I've got tools everywhere because I just have absolutely been fighting this all day, and it's
20 minutes later.
So now I've just got to do up these bolts here, 4 bolts. I managed to get in the tricky as 10mm bolts that are in the here. These were really fiddly to get in. That was the simple part, apart from the strength that needed to get it off. Track bar's back in, so that's all done. Tell it's super beefy, super strong. You see why it makes such a big difference to these. And then yeah, so that was the fiddliest part. That was the single worst part of the job, was that there. So I'm going to torque everything up, and we'll see how it comes up. So that's it. I'll see how I go. I'm probably gonna have a shower and then go for a drive and see what it's like. Fingers crossed it's as good as I am hoping it is. So I've just taken off for the first drive, and initial impressions are it's definitely, it feels firmer. Probably the biggest thing I used to notice with this car is that you're constantly correcting it, particularly on the highways. So it'll be interesting to see what it's like once I get it out on the highway. But first impressions are it definitely feels firmer. I don't know if there's a little bit of placebo in that, I don't know, but we'll see. Well, I've just got back. I've just done the first drive in Sarge after doing that install. What an install. Look, nothing wrong with the product, just the fiddly thing to fit. So oops, leaving sockets around. So yeah, so like I said, there's nothing wrong with the kit itself. It was just a really fiddly job. I'd put up there as one of the worst jobs I've actually done on a car. So like I said, nothing wrong with the kit, just the way you've got to do it. It's just because you've got so many points, and on my own on the ground also makes it a lot more difficult too. So, but initial impressions, now it's hard to know when you do these things whether it's just oh, it's going to be great, like you get brand new shoes and you go running and you know, oh, I'm so much faster with these new shoes. So it feels better, but I don't know whether it actually is better at this stage. The good thing with Steve from Tough Toys is that he didn't want an install video, he didn't want any of that. He goes, I just want you to torture it and everything like that, and then if you can give him some feedback about what it's like. So after a few thousand Ks, I'll do a bit of a review and just give you guys my opinion on whether something like this is worth doing. Now obviously this is Jeep specific, but there is this type of thing for lots of different vehicles. Anyway, I'm going to leave you here. I was supposed to be actually filming something else today, but these things happen and take you a bit longer sometimes. So I'm going to leave you and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.